Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Personal Finance Friday, where we're talking about getting a college education on a budget. We'll be right back. And we're back talking about getting a college education on a budget, either for yourself or for your teenager. Now, there are lots of ways to squeeze college costs, grants and scholarships, and even loans if you want to go that route. Today we're talking about what's called the 2+2 method. That's 2 years at a local community college, followed by a transfer and finishing the last 2 years at the four-year university. Now, there is some stigma attached to that, particularly among the teenage side of things, where they'll complain about not being able to go to the big school with their friends. But to be perfectly honest, if you're having a hard time paying for college already, this is a pretty good way to do it. The tuition costs at your local community college will tend to be significantly less. Books, maybe not so much. They'll still be fairly expensive. Books are never going to get any cheaper, I'm afraid, unless you rent them or some other way of getting them. But if you outright purchase the books, they're going to cost the same either way. But the tuition per class, per credit hour cost at your local community college is going to be significantly cheaper than the four-year university. This is important because usually the first 2 years of a four-year degree are spent on prerequisites in English and history and lower-end mathematics, things like that, that you wouldn't want to pay full price at the big school anyway. The other side of it is room and board costs. If they're living at home and still eating your food, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than a meal plan and dining out and an apartment or campus housing, something else like that at the four-year university. Now, all of this takes into consideration how your teenager is going to behave. If you've got a student who is excellent all around, gets great grades, studious, focused, either works a job or gets scholarships, things like that, you probably don't have to worry about sending them off to the four-year school as much. But if you've got sort of an average, middle-of-the-road teenager who does well at some things, not so well at others, and depending on the crowd of friends they hang out with when they go to the four-year school, you could end up paying a great deal of money in tuition only to have them come home because they've flunked out. You'll also spend a great deal on room and board while they're down there for that privilege. They tend to call this the college experience, and they want to go away from home and hang out and party with their friends on your dime. Well, these days, college is too expensive for that. So consider the idea of 2 years at the local community college. Let them prove they can get the grades, do the work, all while living at home and still eating for essentially free for the same cost it's always been. And then once they prove they can hack it that way, get the grades, complete the courses, and then get the transfer, they can actually get the degree from the four-year university. Nobody will ever know, really, that degree that's from the four-year school meant that the first 2 years came from the community college. Nobody cares. The only exception to this is if they want to major in one of those classes that would be part of their prerequisites. The vast majority of these would be English or history majors if you've got one of those. And the only reason you might consider letting them go ahead and get that at the four-year school and do all that at the four-year school is to establish relationships with the professors in those departments early on. Know who they're working with, the kind of work they expect, etc. It is certainly possible to go into a situation if you were an English major and took your first 2 years of English as literature and composition at the community college and end up having vastly different expectations at the four-year school, if to be an English major anyway. So that is a consideration. But other than that, the 2+2 method gets you into a four-year degree for 2 years significantly less expensive and at less risk because the room and board and everything else is kept local and you haven't spent a lot of money to send them off just to if they end up partying it away. So that's it for this edition of Personal Finance Friday. Thanks for watching. See you next time.